I've always been fascinated by the stories that never make it to the screen. The test reels, the pilots, the animation experiments that get locked away in studio vaults, never meant for public eyes. Most people don't realize how many of these exist, how many hours of footage are created, then quietly shelved, forgotten by everyone except the handful of animators who worked on them. I used to think these lost projects were just curiosities, harmless relics of the creative process. But after what happened with the Dreamworks test reel, I'm not so sure anymore. It started with a job. I was a freelance video editor, picking up gigs wherever I could, weddings, commercials, the occasional indie film. When I got an email from a recruiter at Dreamworks, I thought it was a scam at first, but the address checked out, and after a quick phone interview, I was offered a short-term contract. Digitize and clean up some old animation reels for the studio's archives. The pay was good, and the idea of working for a big-name studio, even in a small way, was too tempting to pass up. They sent me a hard drive by courier, along with a list of files to process. Most of it was standard stuff: early Shrek animation tests, rough storyboards for movies that never got made, a few odd commercials. But one file stood out. It was labeled simply Test Reel 97.MOV. There was no description, no project name, just a date. March 1997. I almost skipped it, thinking it was just another unfinished experiment. But curiosity got the better of me. I loaded the file into my editing software and hit play. The video started with a slate, white text on black. Dreamworks animation, internal test reel, do not distribute. Then the screen faded to black, and the reel began. The first few seconds were nothing special. A simple 3D model of a house, rendered in that unmistakable late 90s style, blocky, with flat textures and stiff lighting. The camera panned slowly around the house, then cut to the interior. The rooms were empty, the furniture basic and untextured. It looked like a tech demo, the kind of thing you'd see in a behind-the-scenes featurette. But then the camera moved into the hallway, and things started to feel off. The lighting grew dimmer, the shadows deeper. The camera lingered on a closed door at the end of the hall, the only one with a doorknob. There was no music, just the faint hum of the computer's fan, captured in the audio track. I waited for something to happen, a character to appear, a joke, a jump scare. But the camera just sat there, staring at the door as the seconds ticked by. After nearly a minute, the door creaked open on its own. The camera drifted forward, as if pulled by an invisible hand. Inside was a child's bedroom, sparsely furnished, a bed, a dresser, a small desk, with a lamp. The walls were painted a pale blue, but the color looked washed out, almost gray in the dim light. The bed was made, but the covers were rumpled, as if someone had just gotten up. The lamp on the desk flickered, casting long, jittery shadows across the floor. I leaned closer to my monitor, expecting a character to appear, maybe a prototype for a movie that never got made. But the room stayed empty. The camera panned slowly, almost hesitantly, across the walls. There were drawings taped up, crayon sketches of animals, a family, a big yellow sun, the kind of art you'd expect from a little kid. But as the camera moved, I noticed something strange. In every drawing, there was a dark shape in the background, a shadowy figure, always just at the edge of the paper, never fully drawn. The camera zoomed in on one of the pictures, a stick-figure family standing in front of the house, all smiling. But behind them, in the window was a black smudge, vaguely human-shaped. The camera lingered on this detail for a few seconds, then pulled back. The lamp on the desk flickered again, and for a split second, I thought I saw the shadow move across the wall, just out of sync with the light. A chill ran down my spine. I reminded myself it was just a test reel, probably an animator's inside joke, or a bit of dark humor. But the atmosphere was all wrong, too quiet, too heavy. The camera drifted to the bed, then to the closet door, which was slightly ajar. The shadows inside were deep, impenetrable. The camera held on the closet for a long time, the silence broken only by the faint hum of the computer fan. Suddenly, the closet door swung open. The camera jerked, as if startled, and zoomed in on the darkness inside. For a moment, nothing happened. Then two small glowing eyes appeared in the blackness, staring straight at the camera. The screen glitched, the image warping and distorting, and a low garbled sound played, almost like a child's laugh, but slowed down and warped until it was barely recognizable. The camera pulled back, the closet door slamming shut. The lamp on the desk flickered one last time, then went out, plunging the room into darkness. The screen faded to black, and for a few seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, the reel started up again. The camera was back in the hallway, but now the lighting was even dimmer, the shadows stretching and crawling along the walls. The door to the child's room was closed again, but something about it had changed. The paint was peeling, and deep scratches marred the wood around the knob. The camera moved closer, the floorboards creaking with each step, the audio track picking up the faintest echo of that warped, childlike laugh. This time, the camera didn't go inside. Instead, it drifted past the door, down the hallway toward the staircase. The walls here were bare, but as the camera panned, I noticed faint handprints smeared along the plaster, as if someone had dragged their fingers through dust or ash. The camera paused at the top of the stairs, looking down into darkness. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then from below, the laugh echoed again, louder, clearer, unmistakably wrong. The camera descended the stairs, each step slower than the last. The living room at the bottom was empty, the furniture covered in white sheets, the windows boarded up from the inside. The only light came from the television in the corner, flickering with static. The camera moved toward the TV, and as it got closer, the static resolved into an image, a crude, looping animation of the same shadowy figure from the drawings, its arms outstretched, its face a blank oval. The laugh played again, this time layered with whispers, words I couldn't quite make out. The camera zoomed in on the TV, the image growing more distorted, the whispers rising to a frantic pitch. Suddenly the screen glitched, and for a split second, I saw a flash of something else, a child's face, eyes wide with terror, mouth open in a silent scream. Then the static returned, and the camera pulled back. The reel cut abruptly to a new scene. The front yard of the house, bathed in the sickly orange light of sunset. The camera panned across the grass, which was overgrown and littered with broken toys. In the center of the yard stood a swing set, one of the seats swaying gently in the breeze. The camera lingered on the swing, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure sitting there, a small, dark shape, almost blending into the shadows. The laugh echoed one last time, softer now, almost sad. The screen faded to black, and the words "End of test reel" appeared in white blocky letters. The video stopped, and my editing software returned to the file list. I sat back in my chair, my skin prickling with goosebumps, my heart racing. I'd seen plenty of strange test footage before, but nothing like this. There was a heaviness to it, a sense that I'd witnessed something I was never meant to see. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a weird experiment, maybe a student project that accidentally ended up in the Dreamworks archive. But the feeling lingered. I replayed the reel, looking for clues, anything that might explain what I'd seen. I slowed down the frames, searching for hidden messages or inside jokes, but all I found were more unsettling details. The shadowy figure appeared in every scene, sometimes just a blur in the background, sometimes reflected in a window or a mirror. The child's face in the TV static flashed by too quickly to capture, but I could still see it in my mind. Those wide, terrified eyes, the silent scream. I checked the file's metadata, hoping for a name or a note, but there was nothing. Just the date. March 1997, and a string of numbers that didn't match any project code I recognized. I searched online for any mention of a Dreamworks test reel from that year, but came up empty. No one on the animation forums had heard of it. When I emailed my contact at the studio to ask if they wanted the file flagged for review, I got a curt reply. Just process and return. No need to mention test reel 97 again. That night, I dreamed of the house. I was standing in the hallway, the shadows crawling along the walls, the door to the child's room cracking open. I heard the laugh, warped and echoing, and saw the glowing eyes in the closet. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. The shadowy figure stepped out of the darkness, its arms reaching for me, its face still a blank, featureless oval. I woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat, the sound of that laugh still ringing in my ears. The next day, I finished processing the rest of the files, but I couldn't stop thinking about the test reel. I kept seeing flashes of it everywhere, in the flicker of a street light, the pattern of shadows on my wall, the static on my TV when I turned it on late at night. I started to wonder if the reel was more than just a failed experiment. Maybe it was a warning, or a message, or something else entirely. A week later, I got a final email from Dreamworks. Thank you for your work. Please delete all local copies of the files and return the hard drive. I did as I was told, but before I wiped the drive, I watched the test reel one last time. The same chill ran through me, the same sense of dread. When the screen faded to black, I hesitated, my finger hovering over the delete key. For a moment I thought I heard the laugh again, faint and distant, echoing from somewhere just out of sight. I pressed delete, watching the progress bar crawl across the screen, half expecting something to go wrong. But the file vanished without a trace, leaving only an empty folder and a lingering sense of unease. I packed up the hard drive and shipped it back to the studio, trying to convince myself that it was over, that I could move on. But the images from the reel stayed with me, surfacing at odd moments. A flicker of movement in a dark room, a child's drawing taped to a refrigerator, the echo of a laugh in a quiet hallway. I started having trouble sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that house, wandering through empty rooms, searching for something I couldn't name. The shadowy figure was always there, just out of reach, its blank face watching me from the corners. Sometimes I'd hear the laugh, warped and distant, and wake up with my heart racing, convinced that something was in the room with me. I tried to talk to friends about it, But it sounded ridiculous out loud. A creepy test reel, a weird laugh, a shadow in the background. Most of them just shrugged it off, telling me I'd been working too hard, that I needed a break. Maybe they were right. I took a few days off, tried to focus on other projects, but the feeling never really went away. One evening, I got a message from an unknown number. The subject line was blank, and the body of the email contained only a single sentence. "Did you watch the whole thing?" Attached was a still image from the test reel, the child's drawing of the family, the shadowy figure in the window. There was no name, no signature, nothing to indicate who had sent it. I deleted the message, but it rattled me. Someone else had seen the reel. Someone else knew. After that, I started noticing small changes around my apartment. A door left ajar when I was sure I'd closed it. A child's laugh, echoing from the hallway when the building was empty. Shadows that seemed to move just a little too quickly. I told myself it was just my imagination, the after effects of a disturbing job. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. I never heard from Dreamworks again. The contract ended, and the emails stopped. But sometimes, late at night, I'll wake up to the sound of a laugh, soft and warped, coming from somewhere in the darkness. I'll see the shadowy figure at the edge of my vision, watching, waiting. And I'll wonder if the test reel was really meant to be forgotten, or if it was just waiting for someone else to find it. I've tried to convince myself it was all just a strange coincidence, a product of too many late nights, too much time spent alone with flickering screens and old footage. But the feeling never really fades. Sometimes when I'm walking home after dark, I'll catch a glimpse of movement in a window, or hear a laugh echoing from an empty playground, and my heart will skip a beat. I'll remember the way the camera lingered on that closet door, the way the shadows seemed to breathe, the way the child's eyes glowed in the dark. I don't talk about the Dreamworks test reel anymore. When people ask about my time working for the studio, I just smile and tell them it was a great experience, that I learned a lot. I never mention the file labeled Test Reel 97, or the email from the unknown sender, or the way my apartment sometimes feels colder than it should. I keep the details to myself, locked away like the reel itself, hoping that if I don't think about it, it can't hurt me. But every so often I'll get a message, an anonymous tip about another lost animation, a rumor about a vault full of forgotten footage, a question from someone who's heard whispers about a test reel that was never meant to be seen. I always ignore them. I've learned my lesson. Some stories are better left untold, some footage better left unviewed. If you ever find yourself working with old animation files, and you come across something that feels wrong, something that makes your skin crawl, that leaves you with more questions than answers, do yourself a favor. Don't watch it. Don't go looking for hidden messages or secret meanings. Don't let curiosity get the better of you. Some reels are locked away for a reason, and if you ever hear a laugh in the darkness, or see a shadow move where there shouldn't be one, remember this: not every story has a happy ending. Some are just warnings, whispered from one unlucky soul to the next. I hope you never find the Dreamworks test reel, but if you do, don't watch it alone. And whatever you do, don't look too closely at the shadows, because some things, once seen, can never be unseen, and some laughs, once heard, will echo in your mind forever.